Are you having a tough time managing your type 2 diabetes? Maybe you've heard absolute horror stories about amputations, organ failure, and blindness, and you are scared out of your mind. But people have also told you, good news, diabetes is reversible. And the only thing you have to do is the one thing that you've been struggling with your whole life, and that is to lose weight for good. Or maybe it never used to be a problem for you, but now you've gotten older, the stuff that used to work just doesn't seem to make any difference at all anymore. You can't seem to get on top of this, but you know it's important. You know you have to really start looking after yourself, and now is when you have the best chance of actually doing this for yourself. If so, then this is for you. You're in the right place. This is what we're going to be talking about today. You're here because you value your health. You want to get the most out of life. You want to be active. You want to feel fitter, have the energy to give to your family and for yourself. And you want to know that you're looking after yourself so you can keep supporting the people around you and ultimately live longer, live better, feel happier. And yeah, you also want to feel really good in your clothes too. But right now, where you are is feeling drained, fed up of being on, or maybe you really are trying to avoid going on to medication. You're confused with all the conflicting information. You don't know what you actually need to do. But the stuff that you do know that you need to do, you just cannot find consistency with. Your body's feeling rubbish. You're getting stiffer and stiffer. Everyday tasks are just becoming more and more difficult. Your energy is absolute zero, struggling with motivation, and you've just lost your mojo. In a bit of a rut. But the good news is there is a clear and proven path to get you from where you are now to where you want to go. And it's been tested by my clients over the years. So keep watching and I'll walk you through what that path is that you need to follow to get you from that kind of that rut place that we talked about to that energized, looking after yourself place. So jump straight in there, but I'm a type 2 diabetes coach. And the reason I got into this is because I was in a very similar place to probably where you are now. I didn't have type 2 diabetes, but the similarities are incredible. When I was in my early 20s, I was really in a rut with life. I was feeling rubbish. I wasn't looking after myself. I had no motivation to do anything. And, when I should have been, freedom, no responsibilities, should have been in my prime, I just wasn't. I was just existing. And for me, health was my way out of that. So for me, it was starting CrossFit actually. And suddenly I was exercising for the first time. I was thinking about how I was eating for the first time ever. And I was surrounded by other people doing the same stuff, thinking about what they were eating, moving their bodies, considering their health. And my life just completely 180'd. I was making friendships like I never had before. I was actually excited to get up and to go after the day. I had things I wanted to do, places I wanted to explore, and my whole world opened up because I started looking after myself and looking after my health. And that is why I got into this, why I became an ADAPT certified functional health coach. And then went on to set up health coaching for Ivor Valley South, PCN, setting up the whole health coaching program across 4 surgeries. And in this process, the first person that I helped with diabetes was my dad over here. So when he first got diagnosed with pre-diabetes, he came to me and we turned it around in 8 weeks. And that was about 7 years ago now. And he is still sitting healthy because we worked out how to get this into his lifestyle, not just a quick turnaround. He has owned these changes and he lives this. It was not a quick fix. It was a lifelong fix. And then since then, I've been helping people all over the place to do the same. So by the end of this training, you will understand why your past efforts have not led to the results you want. And maybe even they've left you worse off. If you've been in that yo-yo cycle where you've lost weight and then you found yourself not too long until you're even heavier than when you started. You'll have a clear framework for what to put in place to turn your body into a fat and glucose burning machine. And you will know what you need to be focusing on to improve or even reverse your type 2 diabetes, like many of my clients have done in the past. So there is a link in the description. If you would like a free type 2 reversal consultation with myself, click that link, get yourself booked in. If you know that you want to work with me already, then that is the next step. So if you've seen a bit more of my stuff, then just jump in there and I'll see you on a call soon. But who does this relate to? Or who relates to this? Okay, so maybe you've been on a diet your whole life. You've worked hard, you've gotten the results, but then you've plateaued. So you've restricted more, you've moved more, but your weight and your blood sugars, they're not matching, and they're maybe even start going up, but they're certainly not going down, and you feel rubbish about it. You think, why bother? Fall out of those habits and you start putting weight back on. Who recognises that cycle? Well, if you're like many of my clients, then it leaves you feeling frustrated, useless, hopeless, desperate. Maybe that there's something wrong with you, or maybe it's time to just accept, like, this is you, this is how you are. If that's you, though, it is not your fault. 95% of people who go on a diet ultimately end up weighing more than they did when they started. This is not uncommon. And when 95% of people playing the game lose the game, maybe there's nothing wrong with you, the player. Maybe the foundational tactics that we've been giving people, the methods that we've promoted, that we've touted as gospel, are more to do with the likelihood of this outcome than your personal application of those tactics. The way that you have been going about trying to improve your health and your waistline in the past is probably backwards, focused on completely the wrong parts and missing absolutely game-changing pieces. And I'm going to take you through today 3 reasons that you have not been getting the results that you've put in the work to get. Reason number 1, okay, I get it. This is big. This is like, what is she actually talking about? But calorie deficits do not work. Okay, I could talk for hours just on this one, and there is a lot to say, there is a lot to unpack, because it is the backbone theory that all of everything you've tried in the past is probably based on. But the fact is, calorie deficits don't work. Let me talk you through it a little bit, just start easing you into this and giving you a little idea as to why. So this is a quote by Dr. George Brays, an obesity researcher. He says, obesity is not rocket science, it's more complicated than that. And I love this quote because we are so often told that calories in minus calories out equals weight loss gain. It's easy. Eat less, move more. But maybe you've tried this, and maybe you know this yourself, that sometimes the scales do lie, and sometimes you have done everything to the letter, and by the maths, you should have lost 2 pounds, 3 pounds, and you get on those scales and it has not moved an inch. So few things that are wrong with this. Well, there's nothing wrong with this. Of course, this is how things work, but it's just not useful. It's just not a framework that we can apply anything meaningful from. Okay, so firstly, calories in and calories out, we cannot measure these effectively. There are so many reasons as to why. I'm not going to go into those, but firstly, we don't even know what we're dealing with in these numbers. Secondly, these numbers are not independent of each other. Okay, so one of them does always affect the other. We have lots of, everything in the body is run by hormones. Hormones run the show. Hormones are trying to keep everything in our body in balance, from our blood sugar levels to our blood pH to our temperature to our fat stores. And this is all regulated by hormones, okay? So if we mess around with one, if we start adapting and changing one of these, calories in, calories out, then our body will start giving ourselves hormonal signals. You know, if we eat, then we have hormonal signals to tell us that we are satiated and we don't need to eat as much more. And so we can't manipulate one without affecting the other one. Next, let's take some numbers. Let's put some numbers on this. Okay, imagine that we burn 2,000 calories a day. So we burn 2,000. Therefore, to be in a calorie deficit, we're going to intake only 1,500 calories a day. Okay. Now, looking at this very on the surface, very black and white, we've now got negative 500 calories, which is going to come. How we're going to equal this out is by a minus 500 calorie weight loss, right? However, that is not the only option that the body's got. The body is a sophisticated system. It does not just use, like I say, hormones run the show, and it can decide what to do with energy. It just doesn't have this warehouse of fat stores of, extra. And if we've got extra, we shove it in there. And if we need extra, we pull it out. It looks in that system. It sees what's going on and it decides what to do with things. So imagine your income suddenly dropped. Would you keep spending in exactly the same way? No, not necessarily. And if we drop this number, the body's probably going to try and do something about this number, and it's going to redirect where we put our energy, how we utilize it, and maybe some of it ends up as weight loss, but maybe that's only sort of like 200 out of these potential 500 negative calories. And we can see how if that keeps happening, this is why we get those plateaus and these even out. And that's why now our body is in a state where it's burning much less calories. It's figured out a way to do that. And that's why now, as soon as we slip at all, our weight goes shooting up. So I get that this is a big statement, but calories in minus calories out does not necessarily equal weight loss or gain. There is more to the picture here. And maybe you have experienced this yourself and you're kind of having I knew there was something going on moment here. Reason number 2 is you could be overweight but undernourished, overfed but undernourished. And this is very, very common. What we eat literally makes our cells, okay? The foods that we put into our mouth are the raw materials, the ingredients that our body makes every cell in our body out of. So if we are giving ourselves subpar materials, poor ingredients, or even missing certain molecules of that out entirely, and the body has got to, figure out different ways of putting things together without having those key nutrients, then is it any wonder that the systems of the body are not working properly? Imagine making your house out of the right materials as opposed to whatever it can scrape together. So what we are putting in our mouths, not just what we are avoiding, but what we are putting in our mouths is so important to the function of the whole body system. So reason number 2 is that your body doesn't have those smooth, efficient, non-gummed up systems because you don't have enough of the right stuff coming in to allow that all to work properly. And reason number 3 is you are not focusing on a vital organ and it has been left to wither. So many of us in modern society have been neglecting this organ, and it's our muscle. Our muscle tissue is an incredible organ, and it has so much more to say than it is given credit for. Our muscles are not just to do with movement and locomotion and posture. They have much more to give, and they're actually involved a lot in immune function. They have a huge say around sugar regulation. And a couple of, just to give you a couple of reasons as to why this is such a big player, such a key piece that you have been missing, is because as a type 2 diabetic, you have probably come across the term insulin resistance. And that insulin resistance begins, first of all, in your muscle tissue. Okay, so insulin is the hormone that helps our cells uptake glucose. And our muscles are the first place that we stop responding to that. Our muscles stop up the uptake of glucose. And this is a big problem because there are only a couple of places in the body that we can store glucose safely. We have to store glucose in a different form called glycogen, because glucose as glucose is sugar. And you can almost think of it as we know too much sugar in the bloodstream is a problem. That's why we call it diabetes, right? And in the same way that sugar rots our teeth, if we stuff it into different cells as sugar, it's going to rot them. And this is why it affects every organ of the body. But there are a couple of places that we can store it in this form of glycogen where it doesn't cause these issues. One is the liver. So we can store it in the liver, but there is only a set amount that we can store in the liver. And once that's full, it's full. But our muscle tissue has a much greater potential for taking on glucose, converting it into glycogen, and storing it in a safe and effective way. It's actually really good for our muscles to contain lots of glycogen. So without this, it's kind of like, we're going to come on to this later, you'll see, but it's kind of like we have got an overflowing sink of glucose because we've got a tiny little saucer underneath our tap. And if we can let our muscles give them some input, some stimulus to be healthy and thriving, they will start sucking up that glucose, taking it in, and prevent that overflow. So that's not reason number 3. You know, we are so different from how we evolved. Our body composition is completely different. The amount of muscle tissue, and we can think of being overweight almost as a symptom of being under-muscled. Okay, that's how important it is. Okay, right. So here, what I've got is a framework. The framework that I use with my clients, and this is how they've got the amazing results they have. So in the middle, healthy glucose control. That is what you don't currently have as a type 2 diabetic. We are mismanaging. We are not processing glucose properly. Now, we've got 3 aspects to this framework. So firstly, this part here, how much glucose is coming in. We can think of this as, this is the input. Okay, and at the moment, the input is on way too high compared to everything else. So maybe it's not on that high, but in comparison to the other pieces we're going to talk about, it's too high. Our tap is maxed out. We've got water gushing into this system, and therefore, no matter how well we can process it, we just can't keep up with that input. Then we've got the output. Glucose not getting out of the body, not being cleared from the body effectively, our sink, our drainage being clogged up and not allowing that glucose to move through the system. So we've got this part of it here too. And then lastly, we've got our storage capacity. So this goes back to muscle. And we can think about, if we've got a nice big sink underneath our tap, or whether we have a little saucer, that is going to make a huge difference as to the potential amount of glucose we have the possibility to move through this system at any one time. Okay, so these are the 3 pieces of the system that we need to make sure are all functioning as well as possible to optimize healthy glucose control, which is the opposite of diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And then these blue things around the edge are the inputs, the things that we can actually do, the things that we can change and affect to have an impact on each part of the system. So these three aspects kind of relate to this. So nourish, build, and clear. And this is the process that we go through. So we nourish, so we make sure we are getting in the right stuff. We build, we make sure that we have the capacity, the space to manage it. And we clear. We make sure our drainage system is working properly. So nourishing, building, and clearing, that's the 3 steps that you need to undergo. Without nourishing, you will have shaky foundations. Think back to this one, our castle made out of subpar ingredients to say the least. Inefficient processes, because of course, if we haven't got the right materials, then everything on top of that is not going to be working properly. But if we nourish properly, then we have a solid foundation, we have smooth systems, everything can just run as it should. And we have the capacity to take on so much more. Without having healthy muscle tissue, then we have insulin resistance, but with it, we have an increased storage capacity. We have insulin sensitivity. We have a massive glucose sponge, effectively. And clear. Okay, so without clearing, we have glucose overflow. Our sink is just already full before we start putting any more water in. But when we clear, we end up with optimal cellular function. Think of it like, so we're clearing the sink, we're draining the sink to give us the space to work with again. And it's kind of also like taking the rubbish out so you can actually do the cleaning, right? So it's just getting everything out of the way, and then everything can function and can work as it should. And doing this is amazing because it not only leads to better blood sugar and to weight loss, but the stuff that is good for you is good for all of you. Like you can see here, we're working particularly on this healthy glucose control. That's the center of our system. But all we're doing is we're getting these systems of the body to run more effectively. And when we do that, everything becomes easier. You can do more physically. The fog lifts, your brain is clearer, you can remember more, you get increased energy. I've had several of my clients talk about how they feel like they're a teenager again with their energy. Better immune system, lower risk of heart disease, cancer, all sorts of things. So the side effects you get from working on this stuff are just more benefits you didn't realize would come in. It's honestly incredible. Aches and pains clear up. So if you made it this far through the video, I want you to think about where you're going to go now, what you're going to do after this video finishes and what's next for you. Because if you're not where you want to be right now, it's probably because you don't know how to get there. Or if everything that we've talked about, you do already know, but you're having a hard time implementing it. That is the crux, the foundation, I would say, even more so than step one of how we help people, and actually implementing, actually getting this stuff happening is such a different step. And you need to know how to do that part too. And even if you're already doing this stuff, then there must be some sort of nuance, some aspect of it that's not quite lining up. So where are you going to go next? Because right now you are already on the right track. You've obviously got some sort of momentum. You're looking to learn. You're open to hearing out a different way that will get you a different result. And that momentum is everything. So keep on this track you're on now. Okay, you're here, you're listening, you're engaging. Think about where you're going to want to go next. Where was your health a year ago? Has all the decisions you've made in the last year led you to where you want to be with your health? Where do you want to be in a year's time? Do you want to keep making the same decisions you've made for the last year, the last many years probably, that have led you to where you are now? Or do you want to make some different decisions? Do you want to take some different actions to get yourself in a different place by next year? So remember that free type 2 reversal consultation I have on offer. The link is in the description. If you want to use that momentum that you have got right now and you want to find out how you can start putting what we've talked about today into practice in your life, this is the way to do it. Get on a call with me and we can talk through how to get these things implemented for you in your life, how to install them, how to systemize it. And why am I offering this? I'll be upfront because, I totally get people are skeptical, people are suspicious of things online. But honestly, the world is a better place with less people suffering from diabetes. There is so much, frankly, unnecessary suffering going on. So if I can help point someone in a little bit of the right direction and they can take that and they can actually utilize that and it helps them, it helps the people around them, then that is brilliant. But I also know that a percentage of the people that go through this process will want help putting that pathway, that process into practice because they know that they want to get it right this time. They know they need to take control of their own health and that they've not gotten where they want to go yet. And they don't want to keep doing the same stuff they've already tried. So I know that some people are going to be in that position, and therefore I want the opportunity to speak to you guys, some of which will be in that first camp, some of which in that second camp. But even if you are not ready to take that next step, I know that we can give you some pointers, head you in the right direction. And honestly, that is win-win for me. Now, this is only for you if you're type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic. You realize that ultimately your health is your responsibility. Okay. Yeah. Doctors can help us. They can advise us. They can guide us. But ultimately our health is down to us. You're open to trying something new. You're open to taking a different approach. You're open to experimenting and seeing if something different will give you a different result. And you're ready, willing, and able to invest in yourself and your health. Now, I am talking about invest in lots of different ways here because you do need to step into this. That's what I want from you. If you get on this call, whether we go forward or not, I want to help you put something into place, into practice. So you need to be ready to take a step, to take bold action for yourself, and to be ready to make a change. So if you meet that criteria, the link is in the description. Because is your current life really the one you want to be living? Are you stagnant right now? Are you in a rut? Are you just existing and going through the motions like I was in my early 20s? Or do you know that you've got more inside you, more potential, more life to be living? Do you want to get back to actually feeling like you again? Getting back out there, socializing. Maybe you've been a bit of a recluse recently. Do you want to get to the place where you're actually wanting to do things and feeling good, knowing that you are taking care of yourself? If that is you, like I say, I would love to have a chat, see if we can point you in the right direction. So click the link in the description, use that momentum that you've got right now to just take that next step and just see where we are from there. I hope this has been helpful. Let me know in the comments what you take from it. And if you meet that criteria we spoke about before, I would love to see you in a chat soon.